I mean, I do think this system is deep, and I think that's why it doesn't get enough respect as it deserves. I mean, Fangraphs released their top 36 Royals prospects today, and they talked about how this Royals system is a bit of a paradox because
Yeah.
they do produce big leaguers. They do have guys who are legitimate all-stars that they produce.
Welcome to another edition of the Royals Pipeline, your KC Sports Network for everything Royals prospects. I'm Jared. As always, that's Kev. We're excited. We are going to go through the Royals' top 25 prospects tonight. The minor league season has kicked off. We're going to give some updates on these guys, kind of where they're at, what they're producing. But first, Kev, how are things going? How are you doing, man?
Yeah, a bit mixed. I mean, on one end, it's like, hey, we got a new stadium in Kansas City. We know that all the trolls out there that are saying, "Oh, Royals are moving to Nashville," they can kind of probably kind of quiet that talk for now. So that's nice. That's cool. But it's tough right now for the major league team. They got their loss today,
Brutal.
and it's it's last place right now in the American League. So we got to stay optimistic somehow. So that's why we're talking about prospects because hope springs eternal, and
Well, I think
I think we should focus on the positives as well, not just the negatives.
Well, hey, I mean, the number one Royals prospect is the best hitter on the team right now in Carter Jensen. So 6 home runs on the year, 14 RBI. He's got over 350 on base percentage, 919 OPS. They're absolutely mashing the baseball this year. It's been awesome to watch. I think he's third in the American League in home runs right now.
Yeah, he is. I mean, right now it's like at the beginning of the year, it seemed like it was like, okay, it's Kevin McGonigal's award to lose. I mean, maybe the Royals might not be as great, but I mean, right now Jensen is at least setting himself for top 3, maybe even a shot to win the American League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he's by far the OPS leader on the team because the next closest guy is Michael at 724, which is not a good sign for your offense. You keep hearing the narrative of like fires on Walt and all these other things, and it's just like I don't think a hitting coach is going to solve all the Royals' problems right now.
Yeah, not at this time of the year. Like if you're firing somebody at ceremonial, it doesn't really matter. Guys just got to hit. People just got to hit. People got to perform better. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. We want to lead off with one discussion here. So the Royals officially parted ways with former first rounder Asa Lacy, 2020 MLB draft first rounder. He was the consensus best college left-handed pitcher in that draft. I mean, you could say consensus. I mean, it was a COVID season, as we all remember, that the college season, I think, was like maybe 10 games that year. Scouts really weren't able to scout guys that entire season. And if you look up and down to that 2020 MLB draft class, like no one's really panned out from that class at all. Lacy was a little bit tougher because just injury riddled career. Upside was enormous. You thought that he could be a rotation piece in the future for this team. I think it was like 4+ pitches coming out of the draft. It's just hard to see because you want to root for a guy like that, right? Like he has going through all that adversity and trying to come out on top.
Yeah, it was a long time coming, right? I mean, you look at where he's at, he hasn't pitched at any level since 2022 in Double-A, where he pitched 20 innings and posted an 11.25 ERA. You know, that draft was so interesting because you're right, that was a 2020 draft. It was really hard to scout. It was that weird, I believe, 5-round drafts where they only had 5 rounds to select players.
Yeah.
Lacy was expected to go to the Marlins, if I recall. Like he was talked about, like he's not going to fall below 3. A lot of people thought that the Royals were probably going to get maybe Max Meyer at 5. There was talk about Zach Veen as a possible guy at 5, and it ended up Asa Lacy. And I thought at the time, a lot of people thought, oh, this was a great pick. He's big, he's durable. There were some control issues, but he was kind of just a top flight arm, and he struggled with control. I mean, if you look at his first year in high A ball in 52 innings, he had a 17.3% walk rate, but he also had a 33.3% K rate. So he struck out guys, and then just the injuries happen. And sometimes, you can blame Royals development all you want, but sometimes with these things, fluke things happen. And that's kind of what happened with Lacy. He just got hurt and he just could never get healthy.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Like all those guys missed a year of development too. So like again, Asa Lacy was like always injury related, but you look at most of his draft class, like the top was Spencer Torkelson. He's been fine. Like Heston Kjerstad, hasn't really been turned out into much. Max Meyer has also been injury riddled. So it's like, okay, if you got Max Meyer with that fourth overall pick, he probably would have been in the same issue. At least he's still kind of contributed at the major league level, but he still has also had his injury problems. And it's like Austin Martin, Emerson Hancock, Nick Gonzalez, Robert Hassel III, Zach Veen, and Reed Detmers rounded out the top 10.
Yeah.
And so, like, you look at this draft, the big name that came out of it was Garrett Crochet, but like he went 11th. So you're kind of wondering, like, okay, he wasn't on 10 teams' boards that early on either. So you can say, oh, the Royals missed on a Crochet or a Jordan Walker or a Garrett Mitchell. But everybody else passed on those guys too. It was just one of those drafts that I don't think as much scouting as I could have put into that, like, you just didn't know what you were going to get because you didn't have, like, the high school seasons were canceled, the college seasons were canceled. You weren't able to go out and scout these guys.
That's a great point, and I think that's something that is lost with the Asa Lacy conversation. Is just it was such a weird year, and there are some success stories. I mean, like you said, PCA is another one that's a success story there. But if you just again you're looking at that draft, there's a lot of guys that were tied to the Royals that really haven't really panned out. Nick Gonzalez, I remember, was an early name that was tied to the Royals in that draft. I kind of thought he was the favorite. And he really, I mean, he's a utility guy. I mean, he's a Michael Massey. I mean, he's nice, but it's not like that's a top 10 pick. It's just sad because I do think that Lacy had some potential. I think that's the one thing that until this year with David Shields and Kendrick Chario, this system has really lacked is just a top flight arm. And I think Lacy could have been that if he had stayed healthy, but he didn't. And so that's kind of what happened for the system. And it's just a big what if. And it shows his potential because the Royals held on to him so long, right? I mean, if he hasn't pitched since 2022, they could have easily said in 2024, hey, we're moving on. They could have easily said in 2025, hey, we're moving on. They still kept him. So that kind of shows his potential, but I understand where the Royals are coming from. Let somebody else handle him at this point.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at the overall class too. So that 2020 year, there was 5 picks. They got 6 because they had a CBA pick as well. It was Asa Lacy, Nick Lofton, Ben Hernandez, Tyler Gentry, Christian Chamberlain, and Will Klein. So, like, for 2020 draft, like, Lofton has been a big league contributor, and Will Klein you were able to trade for Lucas Urseg. So you have some positives coming out of that 2020 draft, but it wasn't pretty for. And then I think you look at every other team, they probably would say the same thing. Like, that draft wasn't pretty.
Yeah. No, I mean, there were some. I mean, yeah, Tyler Gentry debuted. He wasn't really good, but it's, and then like you said, Nick Lofton, he's played pretty well. Will Klein was a key piece to that Lucas Urseg trade. Yeah, I mean, it's just that was such a crapshoot draft. It's so weird. It's such an anomaly. You lost that minor league season. It's just one of those things that's unfortunate, but that's just reality.
Yeah, I'd be curious to go back and see, like, who the WAR leaders are from that 2020 MLB draft. I wonder if there's, like, a place you can go look that up because I'd have to imagine it's probably Pete Crow Armstrong and Garrett Crochet. Like, those have to be the.
You could look at Baseball Reference. So if you go
really?
Baseball Reference, they do, I think, show you the WAR, which I will look right now if I can. And I don't know. I don't want to mess with all this. Like, but yeah, I mean, I know that's kind of the big one is you can look up on Baseball Reference. So
yeah, that's interesting. And like, yeah, you look at the competitive balance round, like it was Jordan Westberg. I mean, he went before Nick Lofton, so it wasn't like Westberg was an option for you. Then after Lofton, it was like Slade Sassoni, Justin Lang, Drew Romo, Tanner Burns, and Alika Williams, and none of those guys have panned out into much. So, yeah, it's just like one of those interesting things, and kind of I think it's a prime example of how hard it is to draft, regardless of it being a COVID year. And I think that's something we'll talk about as we get closer to the MLB draft, and just kind of belabor on this point a little bit. But I think everybody expects that your first rounder is automatically going to be a guy, and that's not always the case. And so I'm excited to kind of dive into some of those conversations later on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've talked about it. This is the MLB draft is not the NBA draft. It's not the NFL draft. It's a different animal just because you guys are so far away from contributing and you have so many rounds. It's like, and you have only a certain amount of money and you got to be creative with it. And so the Royals usually like to be creative. But I guess, we'll see about this year and see what and you don't always draft for need. You draft kind of best available, but it can be a really weird weird approach for the draft. It's not always one size fits all.
Yep. I love it. So we are going to break down the top 25 prospects. So Kevin and I both made our own top 25 list. We're going to discuss the top 25 prospects we have for the 2026 season so far. We broke them into 4 tiers, and we're going to share a little bit about each one prospect from each tier. But before we get into that, we're going to go to a quick break.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
David Starnes Allstate Insurance is a proud partner of KC Sports Network, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. If you are looking for new coverage or something that better suits your home, auto, health, or any of your other insurance needs, give Dave and his team a call. Elevate your coverage and be worry-free with David Starnes Allstate Insurance.
All righty, welcome back. We are ready to dive into the top 25 prospects. So as we mentioned before the break, Kev's got his own list. I got my own. So we're going to go through one. Or should we start from the bottom and go to the top? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. 'Cause let's throw some names that people might not be as familiar with.
All right, love it. Let's go 21 through 25. So 21 through 25, Kev's got Justin Lampkin, Dennis Colleran, Austin Charles, Mason Miller, LP Langevin. I have Daniel Vasquez, Dennis Colleran, Austin Charles, Mason Miller, LP Langevin. So some similarities there, except for the 21. So who's one guy you want to talk about on this list?
I really want to talk about Austin Charles, who's currently with High A Quad Cities. Charles was such an interesting pick at the time. It was a 20th round pick in the 2022 MLB draft. You know, the one thing about Charles, he was a multi-sport athlete. If you look at him, he was more of a pure athlete than a pure baseball player. I believe he had a commitment to UCSB, which is like a mid-major. It's good. It's not a Fullerton. It's not a Long Beach State in terms of like prestige, but it's a decent program. And so the Royals kind of were able to spend some money on Charles, and he had a really good low A year, but he really struggled in 2025 at High A, hit 205 with a 59 WRC plus, was injured a lot. This year, he's been gangbusters. He has been actually really on fire. He's hitting 378 with a 190 WRC plus. He has more walks than he has strikeouts. He has a home run, 5 stolen bases. I mean, right now, he's really looking like he's mastering the Quad Cities level. He's still really raw. You watch him out there, it's not a very natural swing. It looks kind of like a little bit like Hunter Pensy. It's just like the limbs are kind of going all everywhere. It doesn't look very like natural, but he gets the job done, and he seems like he's filling into his frame a little bit. He probably will be a corner infielder, even though he's a shortstop, but he just has a lot of athleticism. He was just a guy that I had it in my top 20 last year. He dropped out. I'm kind of like ready to say maybe he get back in the top 20, but that's why I had him at 23, because I just feel like he's not there yet, but he's off to a good start.
Yeah, I love that pick. And it's something what I think was on draft day because of his height. People were comparing him to Aaron Judge, or like the potential upside was Aaron Judge. Like, I don't think we're expecting that with Austin Charles at this point, but everybody, because again, tall shortstop, everybody was comparing him to like O'Neal Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz, Aaron Judge. I think he shifted mostly over to third base at this point, which was kind of what was expected given how good his arm was. But he's finally turning into him. So, and this is what happens sometimes with these prep prospects, is they just take a little bit longer to develop.
Yeah. I mean, he's matched already his home runs from last year, so that's already a good sign for him in 2026.
Yeah. One guy I was going to talk about here, the numbers haven't really jumped off the board, but this is a guy I really liked out of the 2024 draft class. Talk about how Bridges is really kind of focused on these like high octane arms that can be potential big league relievers. I thought LP Langevin could potentially be one of those guys. Again, he's kind of struggled in the minors. I think he's got like a 5.91 ERA this year. But coming out of the draft, it was like a 70 grade fastball, man. This like thing that had super high spin rates. The metrics were very, very good. He's a Canadian lefty, but he was just always someone I loved watching pitch at Louisiana Lafayette. He came in at number 105 on our draft board that year. It was just a guy that I thought had a potential to really be a quick riser and reliever. I don't know if that's going to be the case, just given the small sample size that we've had of him so far in his minor league career. I'm looking up his stats here just real quick. Yeah, he's got a 5.06 ERA this year, but he has 11 strikeouts in 5 1/3. So the walks have always kind of been an issue for him. Last year in the minors, he had 22 walks and 21 in the third innings. He's got 17 walks in Quad Cities in 15 innings and 5 walks and 6 1/3 in rookie ball. So that's always been the issue with LP Langevin. You were kind of hoping like he wouldn't be more like a Dylan Coleman where you're like always concerned about the walks. But if he can get some kind of command and control, like the strikeout numbers are there. And I really like what he could potentially possess in this bullpen in the future.
Yeah, he's one I've been paying attention to, and I think that was a typo on my end. I think he's actually a right-hander. But the one thing I really like about Langevin is, again, big stuff, big fastball. That's something that the Royals, if you watch the bullpen right now, they're really missing. I know Urseg can touch upper 90s, but it's a very straight fastball. He doesn't really locate it as well to get like the Ks that you would need. And then everybody else, it's not great. So, I mean, I feel like this bullpen in the future needs some guys that come through the system that can throw heat. And Langevin is kind of that guy who can do that.
Yeah, and I said lefty by mistake. He bats left-handed. I should have known that he throws right-handed. That was my fault on that one too. Let's move on to 16 through 20. So you have Carson Roccaforte at 16, yeah. Blake Walters at 17, Michael Lombardi at 18, Warren Calzano at 19, and Frank Mazzucato at 20. I've got Steven Zobak at 16, Carson Roccaforte at 17, Blake Walters at 18, Warren Calzano at 19, and Frank Mazzucato at 20. So who's the guy you want to touch on in this bracket here?
So I want to talk about Mazzucato. I know he's a very polarizing prospect in our system. You know, he was drafted number 1, or he was the first, not number 1 overall, but number 7 overall in the 2021 draft, first round pick by the Royals. Again, we've talked about that he wasn't a pure number 1 pick. He was an underslot pick that was meant to clear some room for Ben Kudrna as well as Carter Jensen. So that was kind of why the Royals drafted him. He struggled with control, and you look at it, he has right now a 14.9% walk rate in Northwest Arkansas, but that's an improvement from his 19.4% walk rate last year. He's got a 10.6 K to walk. He had a minus 1.8 last year in Northwest Arkansas, and he's striking out a little bit more batters too, as he had a 17.6% K rate in 2025 in Northwest Arkansas. He's got a 25.5% in this year in Northwest Arkansas. I don't think Frank Mazzucato is a long-term starter, but I do think that he could be maybe another Daniel Lynch type. We've seen Daniel Lynch really succeed with a bullpen. Daniel Lynch is not really a fastball forward guy, which is not Mazzucato at all. He's always been kind of known for having kind of a mediocre fastball, but really good breaking stuff. And I kind of see that with Lynch, and I could see Mazzucato turn into that mold. I could definitely see Mazzucato being a left-handed setup guy or a guy that could go multiple innings like Daniel Lynch. And I think right now, especially with the Royals bullpen where it is, if Mazzucato can really show some development, he's a guy that maybe it's like, okay, maybe we can push up a level or maybe to the majors by the end of the year or by 2027, as long as the fastball remains decent and the control kind of settles. But I kind of like him. I like him in lower inning roles because it seems like he can let loose a little bit more. I mean, he does have to improve that fastball command, but I think there's a solid Daniel Lynch-esque reliever there in Mazzucato.
Yeah, I'm waiting for all the Royals fans to be like, oh, you're going to get a reliever out of your first rounder. Yeah, we talked about it. Like, they were underslotted him significantly to take him in that first round so they could get Ben Kudrna and Carter Jensen, which has pretty much panned out for them at this point. Like, yeah, Kudrna hasn't been great, but look what you're getting from Carter Jensen. And if you get a reliever out of Mazzucato, or if you get some kind of reliever type out of Kudrna, like, that's 3 big leaguers right there.
Yeah. You know who loves first round picks that become relievers? Soren Petro.
Yeah.
Love the Kaufman Corner podcast, man. But again, he wanted Luke Hochevar to be a reliever. Maybe Frank Mazzucato can be one too.
Yeah, never know. The guy I was gonna go with, because it's been such an impressive start this year, is Blake Walters, low A, Columbia right now. So Walters was a second rounder in the 2023 MLB draft. There was a lot of comps for Walters and his fastball to Bobby Miller, who's in the Los Angeles Dodgers system, who was a top pitching prospect for them for a while. Uh, he's just a guy that he's got a 55 fastball. I would almost give it a 60. I think it got dropped down for a lot of people to a 55 because he's lost some of the velo last year, but he was dealing with some injuries that I think really led to that. And then a 55 grade slider, like it's a wipeout slider that he has with him as well. Big, tall presence on the mound, 6'4", 210 pounds. Good body, like good physicality on the mound as well. And he's been looking really, really good. At first couple of years, he dealt with a lot of injuries. And so we didn't see a ton of him. I think he got 55 innings in 2024, 47 innings in 2025. So good sample size, like 14, 12 starts, but you kind of want to see that get lengthened a little bit. And he just wasn't striking guys out. I think that was the big thing, is like you expect that high octane fastball and that slider to kind of generate some more strikeout numbers. And he only had 40 and 47 in the third innings. This year, he's come out strong in the first three starts. He's posted a .75 ERA. He's got 14 strikeouts in 12 innings. He's limited. He still struggles with some walk issues. He's got 6 walks, 4 hit by pitches. So that's kind of still a concern there. But you have to let what you see. He's got 4 runs and only one of them has been earned. So really impressed with what Blake Walters has been able to do this year. The fastballs look great. Sliders look great. Changeup's still kind of developing for him. But I mean, sky high for him. He's still only 21 years old. I think that we should have some higher expectations for Walters as he kind of moves through the system.
I totally agree. I remember that hype, and I think maybe the hype was just a little too soon. And I think we knew the profile was there. We knew he had the molds to be that Bobby Miller-esque pitcher. But again, he dealt with injuries last year, and anytime you're dealing with injuries, especially with a 20-year-old pitcher, the Royals are going to handle him with kid gloves. They're not going to like try to push him, which is exactly what they did last year. They kind of just said, "Hey, let's just keep it easy." And I think you're right. The big Achilles heel for him was striking out batters. And we saw that in his last game. He had 7 strikeouts in 5 innings, only allowed 1 walk. He did hit a batter, and he only allowed 4 hits and 1 run. That's the kind of outing that we've really been kind of waiting for Blake Walters. And right now it looks like he's really feeling it. He's really feeling the command. He's really feeling the confidence. I mean, even in his last outing, his second to last outing, he had 4 walks. So like, again,
the weather wasn't great that game though. I remember watching some of that.
Yeah, and that's true too, right? I mean, it's like that was also, you got to keep these things in mind. Like at this time of the year, weather kind of sucks, so you can't always say like, oh, that was perfect conditions. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Walters is really showing something. I know that's kind of a lot of the times right now, Kendrick Churio is getting all the attention down there, as well as some of the other recent draft picks. Like you had like Michael Lombardi is getting, and Shane Van Dam is getting a lot of attention, but I mean, I think Walters right now, he might be pushing for a high A promotion pretty soon.
Yeah, I could see it happening definitely with him. We're going to move on to 11 through 15. So 11 for you is Yandel Ricardo. 12 is Felix Arande. 13 is Luinder Avila. 14 is Daniel Vasquez. And 15, Steven Zobak. I have 11 Yandel Ricardo. 12, Felix Arande. 13, Luinder Avila. 14, Michael Lombardi, 15, Justin Lampkin. I feel like I'm pretty high on Lampkin, so that's why I'm so much higher here. But who do you want to go with on your 11 to 15?
I'm going to talk about my number 11 guy, Yandel Ricardo. He's got off to a pretty slow start this year. I mean, I've really been high on him ever since he was in the complex league. As an 18-year-old in 2025, he hit 342 with a 151 WRC plus and 145 plate appearances in the complex league, at 17 stolen bases. He struck out a good bit with a 24.1% K rate, but he did walk a decent amount at 12.4 and had a 0.51 walk to K. He really struggled last year when he got promoted to Columbia. So he hit 212. He had he had a 61 WRC plus and 200 plate appearances, no home runs. He had 14 stolen bases. You know, it was kind of hopeful that Ricardo would do a lot better with kind of a more talented lineup around him with Sean Gamble and Josh Hammond around him, as well as other guys like Brooks Bryan and JC Vanek. And Ricardo hasn't gotten off to the start that like Josh Hammond has gotten off to. Ricardo right now, he's hitting 208. He has 48 WRC plus. His K rate is really high, 31.6. His walk rate is 7%, which is around what it was last year. He's kind of just hitting a lot of ground balls, 55% ground ball rate, and, you know, kind of struggling to make contact, 68.3% contact rate. I think he's pressing a little bit. I mean, I just think it's like there's so much hype right now with some of those low A guys. You could argue that low A right now is the most interesting roster, you know, in the farm system between Gamble, Hammond, Ricardo, and then also Churio. And I feel like he's pressing a little bit, which is why the case. He was kind of known for being a little patient at the plate. But again, he has really good speed. He has really good all fields contact ability and batted ball ability. There's times where I see clips and I'm like, there's something special there. Like there's a guy who can like really turn into something. Maybe not like an Adalberto Modesty in terms of the power, but you can kind of see the length and the defense and the speed really just like meshing well together. But again, he's not off to a good start. And sometimes we see these with a lot of these Latin American guys. They kind of come in there as teenagers, and a low A ball is tough. I mean, it's a tough transition. It's like it's full season ball. You're playing in. I mean, Colombia is not a bad city. I mean, it's not like you're playing in like Cedar Rapids or something like that. I mean, at least Colombia is like a college town and stuff. But it's like, I mean, it's just a different kind of culture shock, and I don't know if that's having an effect or just like he's pressing, but I still don't think he should be a guy to be slept on. I think Yandel Ricardo is still. We're going to hear more about him. It's just he's off to a slow start.
Yeah. I've always liked the profile. Like you said, it's kind of a lot of tools, a lot of upside. You want the hit tools to kind of come together, and it's everything to kind of work for him. And he's young. It's going to take some time. And like, I don't think we're going to see an Eric Pena flame out like we did happen with Yandel Ricardo. But yeah, I think he's going to kind of hit his struggles, kind of like how you mentioned, trying to get adjusted to the U.S., trying to get adjusted to pro ball. A lot of these DSL players or players that come from the Latin American countries, it's just a big kind of change, right? They're leaving home for the first time at a very young age. Like those things take time to figure out. But I still think the sky is high for him. The guy I'm going to talk about on this list here is Michael Lombardi. So this is a guy that I was super high on coming out of the draft. He was the one I loved the most out of probably the round 2 through 3. They took Lombardi in the second round. I mentioned this before in a podcast that he's a two-way player at Tulane. It has just recently begun focusing solely on pitching. I often tend to think like those guys who don't have like a ton of miles on their arms often pan out a little bit more because you just don't have that mileage behind the arm. But it's a fastball that's been up to 96 with carry. He's got a sharp curveball that generates some huge vertical separation, and he's also got a solid low 80s changeup. Again, starter's frame that has a ton of athleticism, and those secondaries are something you can really build on. Command's been a work in progress, but I think there's a lot to like here long term, and he's off to a pretty great start in low A too. And I know, like we've talked about, guys getting promoted to high A. I don't think Lombardi's going to be here very long. He's a college guy, just kind of dominating low A competition. Right now, he's got 20 strikeouts in 10 in the third innings with a 2.61 ERA. First outing, he struggled a little bit. Again, we talked about the weather not being great in that first series for Colombia. 2 in the third innings, 2 earned, 2 walks, but he still had 5 strikeouts. Comes out on the 12th of April, 4 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 4 strikeouts. And then his latest outing, 4 innings, 3 hits, 3 walks, but 11 punch outs. So strikeout stuff's ridiculous with this guy. I think this is an arm that could be a rotation type piece for the Royals if the command figures itself out. If it doesn't, I think he could be a high octane type reliever for this team, and a very good one. And so you get that out of your second rounder. I'm pretty excited to see what Lombardi is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I love Lombardi. I mean, I every time I see more tape on him, every time I see like his stat lines, I'm just getting more and more in awe. You know, I always hesitate when I do these rankings of guys that don't have any pro experience, just because I know that the transition to pro ball can always be tough. And, and again, Lombardi coming from Tulane, pretty good program, but still that transition is always tough. And now I'm looking at, geez, man, like I definitely underrated him at 18 on my list. I probably would have him probably a top 13 right now, maybe even an argument for 11. I mean, you're right. I mean, striking. I mean, I know it's low A. He's a college guy. He probably should be He should be doing pretty well. But 11 strikeouts in 4 innings is pretty ridiculous. I mean, that is serious strikeout stuff we're talking about, and that's serious. That's like serious ace potential if things really click. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be an ace, but this is a rotation guy. This guy can be a rotation guy, and I like what you said about the two-way players. It's a good sign because you're right. Like the mileage is a lot less. It's like he still has time to develop. He's more of like he can be more like open to kind of development from the Royals pitching development team. I think there's a lot to like here on Lombardi's profile. And you're right. I think this was a fantastic pick. I mean, I think this was a guy who went in the second round. And I think, maybe he could produce some first round value if he continues his projection.
Yeah, I love what they did here because Lombardi and Lampkin gave him a little bit more of a floor type prospect when they took them with the second pick and the CBB pick, because then they were able to go with a third round pick and get Cameron Millar, we'll talk about probably him in a little bit here, but he's got a lot higher upside. So you're looking at like kind of offsetting that upside with some safer floor type guys. And I think Lombardi has more upside than Lampkin does, just because we've kind of talked about if he hones in that command, there's ace type potential stuff there where Lampkin's kind of a lower floor type or higher floor type. But yeah, really excited to see what Lombardi's going to bring to the table. We're going to go through, and actually, I think I forgot to rank Cameron Millar. Just going to give myself, that was someone else supposed to put in my top 25.
Yeah, I did the same thing. So
yeah, 6 through 10 here. We got Sean Gamble at 6 for you, Josh Hammond at 7, Ramon Ramirez at 8, Drew Beam at 9, Asbel Gonzalez at 10. I've got Sean Gamble at 6, Ramon Ramirez at 7, Ben Kudrina at 8, Drew Beam at 9, and Asbel Gonzalez at 10. Who are you going with here to talk about?
I'm going with my number 8 guy, Ramon Ramirez, who's in high A ball right now with Quad City. So Ramon Ramirez and Blake Mitchell are kind of the two-headed catcher team in Quad City. So if you love watching catchers, watch Quad City's baseball on MLB TV. Ramirez right now is hitting 245 with a 724 OPS with 2 home runs and 13 RBIs. He's had a really great day today. He had hit his second home run today. He went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and 5 RBI. The guy's a really polished bat. I mean, it's like it's a really he has some really good power. He has some really good contact ability. A lot of people say, hey, he could be the next Salvador Perez. But, I mean, here's the difference between Ramon Ramirez and Salvador Perez. Ramon Ramirez has really good plate discipline. He's had a really good plate approach. Last year in low A ball, he had a 0.55 walk to K ratio. Anything over a 0.5 is really good. If you're a hitter and you're over 0.5 at any level, it's kind of like, hey, this guy has a pretty good sense and a pretty good approach at the plate, which Ramon Ramirez does. This year he has a low one at 0.15. But again, this is so early, so it's really hard to say, like, is that going to stick? And it seems like he kind of got off to a slow start too. Quad Cities is kind of notorious for the weather being absolutely miserable. It is the Midwest in April. It is really hard to play games, especially in the Midwest and Iowa by a river, like a river city. So it's like you add those two things and it's just like really hard to like really get going. But right now Ramirez had a really good game. So I think, as the weather heats up, I could see him heat up. And I do think he's a lot different than Mitchell, is that while I think Mitchell maybe has a higher ceiling as a prospect, I might say that I like Ramon Ramirez's floor a little bit better. He doesn't have the athleticism of Blake Mitchell, but I think he's polished enough behind the plate. I think his arm is good enough behind the plate. I think he could work on the footwork a little bit more. I think that's kind of the difference between him and Mitchell, is that he just doesn't have Mitchell's polished footwork. But there's a really good catcher in here. And I think there's a catcher who could hit 15 to 20 home runs at the major league level at the worst, or at a minimum. And then I also think that if things really don't pan out, I do see him as like a backup catcher at the very least. I could see him being a Martin Maldonado type who could give you a lot of years and a lot of durability behind the plate.
No, I love that pick. I'm excited to see what the bat can do from Ramon Ramirez. Like I think you just mentioned that he just had that game where he hit a double, home run, and something like another single. He's absolutely been mashing as of late. He's a guy that was a top 100 prospect for Just Baseball at one point, just because of the extremely hot start he got off to in rookie ball and in the DSL. You kind of just saw like everybody was kind of getting flashbacks to Salvador Perez. I don't think he's that good, like in
Right.
terms of like arm strength behind the dish, but the bat, you were just kind of thinking, okay, this could develop into something really special. So I think the jury's still out on kind of what he can become, but I think the ceiling's sky high for the bat.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The guy I was going to originally talk about was Sean Gamble, but I've actually decided to switch this last minute. I'm going to talk about Asbel Gonzalez, because I've been intrigued about the profile. Like, if you're looking for power, you're not going to Asbel Gonzalez. This is a guy that has definitely hit over power. But throughout his entire career in the minors, he slashed 253, 369, 324 with a 693 OPS. And OPS, I think it's a ding because he doesn't have power. That's kind of the big thing. I have always kind of seen him as a guy that I don't know how great the hit tool is. That's kind of been some of my concerns with him. But like this year, he's hitting over 300, and he's really kind of come into his own a little bit. It's always been kind of an average type hit tool for me, but right now he's slashing 313, 353, 333 slug because he doesn't hit home runs, and a 686 OPS. Last year, he had 78 stolen bases. This is a guy who flies on the base pass, and his profile kind of reminds me a little bit of Billy Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
Like if he could get some improvements on the hit tool, I would say he'd be a Billy Hamilton with a better hit tool. But right now, it kind of seems like he's in that similar realm of being like a super, super fast outfielder, really, really good defensively out there. It's 60 run, it's 60 field. He's able to kind of track down everything. The arm's not great, but it's still average enough that you can kind of trust him out there in center field. So like, do I think he's a starter at the major league level? No, but I think you could see a fourth outfielder or kind of like a Gerard Dyson type that could play really well in Kansas City.
I really like Asbel too, and let's have some fun with numbers here. So I'm looking at Billy Hamilton as a 20-year-old in 2011. He played in low A ball, 135 games, 610 plate appearances. He hit 278, but much like Asbel, he had a pretty lackluster OPS that year. He was 700 OPS, so not great. He had only 3 home runs. He scored 99 runs, and he had 103 stolen bases, right? Wild. But again, Billy Hamilton also had 610 plate appearances. Asbel Gonzalez only had 505, and he stole 78 stolen bases. Asbel Gonzalez struck out less than Billy Hamilton. So Billy Hamilton is in low A as a 20-year-old, struck out 21.8%. Asbel Gonzalez struck out 17%. Billy Hamilton had a 0.3 walk to K ratio. Asbel Gonzalez had a 0.63 walk to K ratio. I do think there's some legitimate Billy Hamilton comparison there. And Hamilton was, I feel like that's what hurts Asbel Gonzalez, is because at the time we really didn't know there wasn't a lot of players like Billy Hamilton, at least in the modern era. And so like, I think like people kind of hyped him like, oh, Billy Hamilton, man, #1 prospect for the Reds. And then, obviously he didn't really turn out to be like what we all thought because he didn't have any power. And so I think Asbel is getting some grief for that. But I think that Asbel is like, has a better approach than Hamilton did. I think the contact tool is a little better than Hamilton. Hamilton was more pure speed and defense, and the hitting was just enough. So, I mean, and also Asbel is younger. So, I mean, he's already a year ahead of Billy Hamilton's pace. So I agree. I think this is a guy to pay attention to I think he has Gerard Dyson upside, which is great. I think a third, fourth outfielder. And we've seen from Kyle Isbell that as long as you provide excellent defense and good base running, you can have a career as a number 9 hitter.
Yep.
And even if you're not posting a 700 OPS at the major league level.
Like, I know it's not great, but he put up 11.7 F4. Like, if you get that from Asbel Gonzalez, I feel like you have to be pretty happy because he had 2 seasons where he had 1 over a 2 WAR, 1 over a 3. He had almost a 4 WAR his 2016 season. Then he averaged about 1.8 for another 2 seasons. So, like, again, if you can get that out of Asbel Gonzalez, I think you're going to be pretty happy, especially for a guy who's barely a fringe top 30 prospect in some sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, he's very athletic. I mean, right now he's again he's 6'2", 170. He's not really filled out yet. I think he's filling out a little bit more. I think the power will come as his body. And like I said, I think last year he kind of just broke down. I think it was just a long season for him. I think he's in better shape this year. I think he's used to the grind. I definitely see him performing a lot better in Quad Cities and not having that similar breakdown.
I agree. We're gonna go to the last one here, 1 through 5. So your 1 through 5 is Carter Jensen, Blake Mitchell, David Shields, Kendry Turrio, Ben Kudrna. Mine's Carter Jensen, Kendry Turrio, Blake Mitchell, David Shields, Josh Hammond. Who are we gonna highlight here?
Well, we're not going to highlight Carter Jensen because he's not a prospect really anymore.
No,
It's like
at this point, he's off the list.
yeah, he's the best. He's the best player on the Royals right now, hitting wise. So yes, he's not the prospect. I'm going to go with number 2 though. Is Blake Mitchell, and Blake Mitchell. I struggle with him so much because if you're like an analytical person and you really just go by the numbers, you're like, this guy is not a top 100 prospect. This guy is not a top 200 prospect. Just looking at his numbers, I mean, his best batting average came in 2024. He had a 238 batting average. This year, he has a 205 batting average, which I think went down after today. But the weird thing is, right, is like he walks at a crazy amount. He has a 25.9% walk rate this year. Last year, he had a 20.8% walk rate despite playing only 216 plate appearances, 17% walk rate in 2024 in low A ball. And he's got power. He had 18 home runs in 2024. He's got 4 home runs this year in Quad Cities. And hitting home runs in Quad Cities at this time of the year is not easy. So the fact is he's hitting bombs. He's hitting bombs to left center, to right center. He's not like getting any pool cheapies. He is legitimately hitting it to the gaps and really launching it, which is really great because that was the one concern last year when he broke his hamate bone, was that the power just wasn't there. He only had, I believe, 2 home runs in 216 plate appearances last year. So he's already doubled his home run total in Quad Cities in a fraction of the at-bats. So I think the power is legit. And this guy has phenomenal defensive tools. He is definitely the best defensive catcher in the system. He's one of the better defensive catchers in high A ball and arguably like in minor league baseball. I think that's why he's a top 100 prospect according to people. But the problem is the strikeouts. He is striking out 35.2% of the time this year. He struck out 32.9% of the time, and he struck out 30.5% of the time in low A. That's not good if you're striking out 30% of the time in 3 different years of affiliated ball. And, you look at even some of the contact numbers, he has a 53.5% contact rate this year, 19.3% strikeout or swing and strike rate. Now, to be fair, he doesn't see a lot of strikes. This year, he's seen a first strike rate of 37%. So pitchers are really either not commanding, which is probably due to weather, or they're just respecting him so much that they're not giving him anything to hit. And that's kind of why I know that the numbers aren't great, but that's almost why I'd want the Royals to challenge Mitchell and just send him to Double-A, so that way he can get more to hit. We can really see if this approach is legitimate, like he's just like way overly patient, or if like he's got a serious hole in his contact tool. And we don't know that right now. Unfortunately, we don't, because his batting eye is so good, or his approach is maybe a little passive, but it's so patient that we just don't know where his contact is. Is it legit, or is it like a serious flaw? And that's why I'm just so like in a paradox with him, because I just don't know what to think until he gets to Double-A and we actually see it.
Yeah, I mean, that was my concern coming out of the 2023 MLB draft on Mitchell, was just the passive approach, right? Like, it's such a good feel for the strike zone that it's almost too good of a feel. This was some of my issues with like Xavier Nyons, who the Astros took in the 2025 MLB draft. It's like prodigious power, and it's like an incredible eye at the plate, but is almost too passive. Like, he wasn't capitalizing on, and that's kind of where he struggled, like in the summer circuit a little bit. And I'm only talking about Nyons just compared to Mitchell, but like Nyons struggled in the summer circuit and a few other places because he was just so passive. And wasn't capitalizing on the pitches that were given to him. And that's kind of my concern with Mitchell, is like, at some point, when's he going to adjust to start like, okay, you got to go get this fastball as soon as you get it, and those kind of things, and being a little bit more aggressive. Like, the strikeout numbers are already high, and you're wondering, like you said, is that because he's too passive and now all of a sudden he's chasing out of the zone trying to make things happen? because you're walking at a 25% clip this year. Like you mentioned, 20% last year. It's just going to be interesting to see how it develops. I will say, I think this pick is the one that I think the Royals will regret because on draft day, it was either him or Kyle Teal were the rumors.
Yeah.
And I thought they took Mitchell because they were trying to underslot to get like Walters. But you look at what Kyle Teal went for to the Red Sox. He went for $4 million on a $4.66 million slot. I'm like, oh, you could have had Kyle Teal because he was the guy I was the highest on coming out of that draft in terms of a catcher. Like it's super athletic behind the dish. He's gonna stick there for a long time. Like the bat was, you already knew it was polished. Like you knew the power was gonna be there, and like the power might not be to Blake Mitchell extent, but the power was good enough. Like and the hit tool was so much better. And so I think like if we look back at this 23 draft, depending on what Mitchell's outcome is, I still think like you're gonna look like, oh, we could have had Kyle Teal as the future replacement for Salvi.
I agree. Unfortunately, like I've been a Mitchell defender most of the time to Royals fans, especially because I'm not gonna lie. Like everyone's like, "Oh, they should have drafted Kyle Teal." It's like you didn't know anything about Kyle Teal. You saw like a week eclipse of Kyle Teal like a week before the draft, and all of a sudden you're an expert on college baseball. Give me a break. But it's I think I just felt like this was an example of maybe the Royals scouting department just kind of overthinking it, kind of seeing some of the athleticism and the tools and saying like, hey, we were successful with Bobby Witt, as a high school prep prospect. Let's get another high school Texas prep prospect in Blake Mitchell, who's got a lot of tools. And he does have tools. I mean, he's very athletic. But you're right. It's kind of like you maybe had a more polished version of that in Kyle Teal that was a little bit closer to the big leagues and you knew what he was going to be. And you had one that was a bigger risk. And I think right now we're kind of seeing is that, yes, maybe Mitchell will turn into something, but it's still a very unknown. And I still think we're not going to really know anything until he starts playing in Double-A.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see, like you said, they kind of how the development goes. I want to quickly wrap up on my last guy here. Josh Hammond. That's a guy I wanted to talk about. We talked about him kind of Gamble being the prize of that draft, but I think Josh Hammond was that prize, and we're kind of seeing it in Columbia. Coming into the night, he had an 893 OPS. He had 5 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 6 doubles, 1 home run, a triple. He's absolutely mashing. And he also went yard again tonight as we're recording this. So Josh Hammond is absolutely on fire in Columbia. It's awesome to see. He's kind of been the antithesis of Sean Gamble. Sean Gamble's kind of hit his struggles with strikeout numbers. He's striking out, I think, almost 35% of the time. But Hammond has looked really, really, really good. And I'm kind of excited to see how this profile pans out. Because, again, guy who was going into the draft as a pitcher and decided that he wanted to be a position player instead and play every single day, which is absolutely incredible and kind of what he's doing. And he just took off in the draft cycle last year. That was the biggest thing that was impressive to me is that everybody's like, okay, he's going to go as like potential first rounder as an arm. And then he's like, no, I'm going to hit. And everybody's like, maybe you shouldn't do that. And then next thing you know, he became a first round type talent for the bat. So really excited to see how this profile turns out.
I really like Hammond a lot too. I think we talked about when we were talking with our group text about like who was going to go first round. And I thought there was maybe some rumblings of Hammond as a possible one. They ended up going with Gamble, but then they ended up getting Hammond in the second. And again, tonight he's 2 for 2. He's hitting 344 with a 986 OPS. I mean, right now, man, this guy's a dude. I mean, he's a high school guy.
Top 100 prospect, gonna be.
He's good. I mean, this is a guy who you could challenge for the number 1 spot. I mean, honestly, I think right now, if with Jensen graduating, I mean, either going to go Mitchell or Shields just based on pedigree. But I mean, right now, man, if this continues by midseason, and he's going to high A and he continues this, he's going to be number 1 prospect by the end of 2026 and be in 2027, at least in the Royals system. And like you said, that means he's a top 100 guy. I mean, I love his profile. I love what he's doing. You just watch him out there. He's really smooth. He's smooth with his swing. He's smooth with he like runs around. I mean, he's like Carlos Santana smooth. I mean, that's how good he is right now. And so I really I thought this was a home run pick. I think this shows kind of what Bridges has brought to this system the last couple years that we weren't seeing previously. And yeah.
I was going to say, you can make an argument like once Jensen graduates, the Royals could still have 4 top 100 prospects between Hammond, Shields, Mitchell, and Churio, right? Yeah. Like, I think Mitchell's going to probably be a lot of borderline for people, a top 100, but If Shields keeps pitching the way he does, if Hammond keeps hitting the way he does, and Churio just keeps dominating, like I think you're going to have at least three top 100 prospects for the Royals. Like you mentioned, since Bridges has taken over in 2024, like the talent that's come through this farm system has really impressed. And so we've talked about a lot of those guys like Lombardi and Lampkin and a few others, and I'm just excited to kind of see how it develops.
Yeah, I mean, I think this system is deep. I mean, I do think this system is deep, and I think that's why it doesn't get enough respect as it deserves. I mean, Fangraphs released their top 36 Royals prospects today, and they talked about how this Royals system is a bit of a paradox because they do produce big leaguers. They do have guys who are legitimate all-stars that they produced. And we're seeing this right now. You could argue that we have 4 top 100 prospects in this system.
Yep.
And I think that in the end, when you look at every ranking, it's like 26, 25, 27. And I just think it's just because it's the Royals. And they're like, we're gonna rate this system because it's the Royals, just like we know that like systems like the Dodgers get inflated because it's the Dodgers. And so it's, I really encouraged by what Bridges has done because I do feel like we're getting like high level talent. And even in the middle of our rankings, there's some really good talent. This isn't like 2021 where it's like, what's our 20th prospect? I don't know, Lucius Fox. Like I'm trying to get like excited about Lucius Fox, who's really like, who really didn't do anything. So, I mean, I think it's just like, we're in a real good spot, I think, as a farm system, which is not something that you could say in years past.
Yeah, I love it. Do you have any final thoughts before we get wrapped up here?
I think right now the Royals are tough to watch, and today was another tough one. But day games are great opportunities to watch the guys on the farm, especially if you have MLB TV. Columbia is playing right now. I believe a couple other teams are in play tonight. Because I think they're playing some good ball. Everybody is around 500 or better right now. I think Northwest Arkansas is a game below, but they're competitive. And there's a lot of guys on our top 25 list that we didn't talk about, right? I mean, it's like there's a lot of guys that we could have easily gushed about. Brooks Bryan was a guy that you and I both have talked about as a guy who's absolutely lighting it up in Columbia. So I would just say to Royals fans, if you're that frustrated with the team and you're like pulling out your hair and like going on Twitter and like screaming into the void every 10 minutes, watch some of the minor league guys, man, because they're really producing some stuff that's going to get you hopeful about the future of this organization.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to keep following for the rest of the season, see how these guys are doing. If you want more analysis from us, be sure to tune in to Royals Pipeline. We're going to be coming to you bi-weekly. Excited for everything that we got coming, more player interviews, more analysis. So appreciate you all tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you.
See ya.